Hello everyone, welcome to Anime No Mi, and thank you for joining us for another One Piece video. In today's video, we're going to take some time to talk about the power of the Sun God, and who may have actually achieved this power throughout the time in the world of One Piece. The power of Nika, or the Sun God, has long been passed on to various users, turning them into users of a divine power, a power in which there is a great story hidden in a mysterious fruit. So far, we know of only 2 users who have possessed this power, but there may have even been more over the years. But unlike the 2 who managed to awaken the power of this fruit and realize its true potential, the others just might not have been able to. So in today's video, we're going to talk about the fruit of the Sun God Nika, the powers that this legendary fruit could possess, and we'll also talk about the ancient and the present bearer of this fruit. But before we dive into this fruit's history, if you're new to the channel, we'd be absolutely honored if you consider leaving us a like, or even subscribing with a comment letting us know what you thought of the video. It really helps us out and may be like a small thing for you, but is a huge motivation for us to make more content. And if you'd like to help out the channel in a bigger way, consider sharing the video with a friend. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So friends, the fruit of the Sun God Nika is considered a mythical Zoan fruit, and really this also proves to be a very legendary fruit for one very special reason. This fruit was singled out and had its name changed very long ago so that no one could possess this power, because it was considered ridiculously strong. This fruit allows the user to mold their body in any desired way, so that during combat they can make any modification to their body they want, making them a very difficult opponent to defeat. In the manga, it's been said that there was an extremely strong and large man who lived more than 800 years ago, and they called him Joy Boy. Now, it's not exactly known what he looked like, and very little has been revealed about it, but when we see him depicted throughout the community, we often see a large burly man with a beard wearing a straw hat. But really, that's just kind of headcanon and speculation still at this point. But from what we have learned, we do know that Joy Boy was the person who put the One Piece treasure together and had it in his hands. And this treasure originated and was stored because of him. And he was the one responsible for leaving the treasure in a place where no one but just the bravest, or specifically a certain person, could find it. It's also been said that the fruit of the Sun God Nika and Joy Boy existed during the Lost Century, which was about 800 years before the present history, during which time the story about Joy Boy and the fruit of the Sun God were erased by the world government. And of course, we know that these two have a connection because they not only existed at the same time and had their existence and history erased, they also have responsibility for doing something that the world government really didn't like, or at least they attempted it. This could mean that Joy Boy was the very first bearer of this fruit, being the one responsible for freeing the suffering people and thus spreading the Sun God's name around the world, so that people would start to believe that there could be hope for the world. Joy Boy was only able to be recognized for these accomplishments because he became an outstanding figure and possessed the power of the fruit of the Sun God. So he, as well as any other possible users, could have been recognized in some years prior or after as a deity. Therefore, Joy Boy might have been the very first user of this fruit and actually became the greatest enemy of all the kingdoms that united to become the first world government. And it may actually be because of the Sun God Nika and what he meant to the world of One Piece that they united in the first place. People might also end up recognizing Nika because of his appearance, or at least the changes that the fruit bestows on the user once they go into that mode. Now, we really don't know if Luffy is currently in his Zoan mode or his hybrid form, or just has come into a regular. We really don't know because we haven't seen how that's been delineated yet. But in any event, we also know that Nika had a very characteristic laugh and gave off a light, and it might have also been this image where we see him jumping for joy that really imparted the name Joy Boy. Let's also not forget the fact that it seems like his heart becomes a drumbeat, and we saw that when Zunisha responded to Luffy reawakening, we saw that he was calling it the drums of liberation. And that alone could be another marker, because it almost seemed that it wasn't just Zunisha that could hear it, that perhaps everyone on the island of Onigashima could hear those drums. Also, many in the community believe that Joy Boy could have been a giant, because it's described that Joy Boy was a big man. Now, they could have been talking about his kindness or the size of his heart, but they could have also just been referring to literally his size, which could have been the equivalent of that of a giant, or even bigger, just as we saw Luffy become gigantic with his Gear 5th transformation. Furthermore, we saw that when Im Sama went to his vault, his treasure in Mary Joie was a giant frozen straw hat, just like Luffy's. So this could actually be Joy Boy's hat, and he wore it during the past while he was the chosen one who had the power of the Sun God Nika. After all, in the Fishman Island arc, they mentioned that other people with a straw hat had passed through the island and had gone on to do great deeds. And they might not have been just talking about Roger or Luffy, but they could have also been going all the way back to Joy Boy. But of course we know that Joy Boy, even though he possessed this immense power, during the past he had to have have lost his life at some point, leaving his mission and his will to someone in the future who would allow Joy Boy to return, or at least his spirit. Most likely, he might have sacrificed himself to save something precious, like the One Piece treasure, preventing it from being reached by his enemies, which currently could be Im-sama and the world government, or even enemies who possessed the Yami Yami no Mi in the past. It also could be that Joy Boy wanted to make sure that someone in the future would be able to defeat the world government. And so, knowing that one day he would return, he would have gone to the limit. After all, he had already written everything down in the poneglyphs, saying that he would return one day. And it's also worth remembering that Joy Boy has been called a great man of the ancient kingdom, and he very well could be the thing that made the ancient kingdom a threat to the rest of the kingdoms that united and became the world government. So somehow, the former Joy Boy lost their life, possibly during a confrontation against an opponent who may have somehow had the ability to deactivate or overcome the power of the Sun God. Because as we've seen recently in Luffy's fight against Kaido, even though Kaido is really strong and possesses a fruit with devastating power, he wasn't able to injure Luffy's body at all while in Gear 5th. And even though it was the very first time Luffy was using Gear 5th with this transformation, he proved to be unstoppable, grabbing lightning, grabbing Kaido, and just going on and on. So there's a possibility that some user with an even more powerful fruit, or the exact fruit, was able to defeat Joy Boy, which of course makes us believe that it might be the user of the Yami Yami no Mi, or some other legendary fruit that was able to nullify the elastic powers and characteristics of the Sun God's fruit's user. Besides, he also knew that somehow he would return, or at least his spirit. And we saw that when Roger was going through Fishman Island, he heard the Sea Kings talking about the prophecy of the princess and another great person. So whomever it was to be, it was already predestined. And now we arrive at our young rubber lad. And Luffy became the new user of the fruit during his childhood, having eaten it by mistake and thinking it was just a simple rubber fruit. And over the course of his life has obtained more and more power. And the power that Luffy wields is not something that just can be explained or was done in one day. Luffy took time to get to know his rubber fruits, because if you think about it, it could have been a really lame power. But Luffy, through his creativity and his young mind, learned how to use this rubber fruit in ways that could only be imagined by really a tactical genius. So little by little, as Luffy has gained control over this rubber fruit, he's also slowly gained the control of the power of the Sun God, and at least has the initial power of the fruit, which seemed to be a paramecia. But now we're starting to see exactly how strong this power is and how far it goes. Of course, recently we had one of the biggest revelations regarding this fruit, and is that the Gorosei had changed the name of this quote-unquote paramecia fruit to, from what it originally was, which was of course a mythical Zoan fruit that possessed the powers of the Sun God. So it turns out that this person, or this entity that was worshipped in many places and seen as a god of liberation in the world of One Piece, could actually have been a real person. So when Luffy finally awakened this fruit and became whatever this Sun God thing is, somehow he became Joy Boy. And it was really unexpected, because it said that Joy Boy would return, but we've never really been told how. In that really crazy cliffhanger that Oda left us with, many fans of the community thought that somehow Luffy might come back to life after seemingly being defeated by Kaido, and just continue his plan to bring peace to the world. But it seems that Luffy has not only wakened back up and awakened his fruit, but he has himself become perhaps the Joy Boy, and acquired his characteristics. These characteristics include the huge smile, which is almost always on Luffy's face, the flaming appearance, something that emits white light, and also just seems to be able to play and do with whatever he wants with his body and the world around him. Now, because it's also been revealed by the Gorosei that Zoan fruits seem to have their own personality or soul or essence, we don't know if somehow as Luffy unlocks more of this fruit, if perhaps he'll require or regain some of his memories, or perhaps even get something more from the previous Joy Boy. But whatever the case is, with the return of Nika's power, it could be that this is where this laughing deity became known as a Joy Boy, somebody who was eternally youthful and always brought joy and liberation and freedom to all those who needed it. But we also want to make sure we bring in a difference, that it's not just Joy Boy and Nika completely connected. Now, Nika is a power from a devil fruit, but Joy Boy is a title, which means the individual needs to have a determination that guides the user to fulfill something very important so that he can save everyone and free the world. So then one has to ask themselves, is it perhaps Joy Boy's will that was inserted into that fruit? Is it Nika, or is it Joy Boy? Or is it somehow a combination of the two? Another really interesting possibility to think about is that perhaps becoming Joy Joy Boy may have to come through the surname D, because it's been said many times throughout the story of One Piece that the D clan has continuously changed the world. D's also have something very similar with Nika as well, and that would be their big smile. As if even close to losing their lives, they don't regret a single action they've done, showing that the D's carry a powerful will in their blood. So it very well could be that those who possess Nika's power and have the surname D could be the people who inherit this legendary power. The Gear 5th transformation of Luffy could represent the former form of Joy Boy when transformed. Another interesting thing to note is that Roger, while was on Laugh Tale, was unable or knew at least not to take the One Piece treasure that the former Joy Boy had left. Instead, Roger stood there laughing with his crew and said that he'd wished he'd lived in the same era as Joy Boy, possibly implying that he was waiting until that moment for Joy Boy's return in some other D-Clan member. But at that moment, the person who would inherit Nika's power had not been born yet. So Roger had lived in an era when there was no Joy Boy and knew that he would not be able to become Joy Boy or maybe even see Joy Boy's return. Also, it seemed Roger regretted that he couldn't accomplish this last mission, which was the one that would have allowed him to take the One Piece treasure. And it was possibly that because he didn't have a devil fruit, which of course was confirmed by Kaido that Roger did not have a devil fruit. So this might be the missing piece that allows somebody to get a hold of the One Piece, and why Roger could not actually inherit the One Piece treasure. So he left it there and spread the word so that one day, whoever was to become the new Joy Boy would emerge to get their treasure. Even Whitebeard during Marineford told Teach that he was not the one that Roger was waiting for. Now, even though Teach is a D, it means that he may not be the right D clan or even the right person. So this could mean that Luffy is the only one who could have gotten the treasure and accomplish whatever final mission there is. So Luffy may currently be the only one who's capable of obtaining the One Piece, not just finding it. And this may be something that Teach will know when he finds out about this transformation, because his current goal really isn't going after the One Piece, but something else. It seems like Teach might be waiting for something, which could be Luffy getting even closer to the treasure so he can intervene and stop it. But either way, the legacy of the Sun God and the legacy of Joy Boy seem to be colliding and coming together in Luffy. And for now, we'd love to know what you think about it. Do you think that all of this could have just been the two users, or do you think there were other people in the middle? Let us know in the comments below. So as we wrap up today's video, we want to thank you so much for staying all the way to the very end, my friends. Make sure you comment on any themes or ideas that you'd like to see in future videos. And also, since you made it this far, give us a like as you head out to take on the rest of your day. Hope to see you all in our next video, and let's keep sailing this giant sea together. Take care.